something that bothers me when people say that Neopets is a comparison to Webkinz is like, I won't try and deny there is some sort of legitimacy to the comparison, because they are both, you know, razy pet sites. But like, to say like they're in the same category is kind of, it's not, it doesn't feel right, because like Neopets progresses through like several pages, and like sure you can feed it and all that, but it's not nearly as interactive as this. And like, I don't want to like, it's gained its charm through that, but it by default could only serve then as like an inspiration for the interactive pet simulators that came after it that are still popular. Also why, like, I don't think that just because it was popular that Club Penguin was a competitor to Webkinz either, because yeah, you were a penguin, and yes, there were those puffles, but the game was far more social, and Webkinz does have social elements, but they're not nearly as to the forefront. They specifically limit what you can say. They specifically limit the amount of people you can have in a room together. That's why they have multiple chat rooms for that reason. They don't, like, the moment Club Penguin started, you were forced to choose a chat room. In Webkinz, you don't have that at all. Like, basic users only have the light blue room, and only the deluxe members can choose the other types of colors that used to be available in the original game. But even with the original game in mind, not counting all the stuff that got moved over to deluxe, the other channels, you were not forced to choose a channel at the start of the game. You were not forced to choose a color. You could literally just play the entire game in complete ignorance of anyone else. And in Club Penguin, I mean, you can try to do that, but you will encounter another player, is the difference. Like, Club Penguin was designed as a social experience, and it evolved as one. Webkinz has tried to do that, but doesn't focus on it nearly as much as Club Penguin did, and that's why I feel like it and Neopets are really bad comparisons to use when we're talking about, you know, the virtual pet space, because Webkinz, as I've played it for years, it's not nearly the same as these other two things, and I have played them. I should probably do babysitter and silence so I can actually get some muns. This shouldn't be hard. All I gotta do is just keep their bars up. It's just details. That's all. It's funny since I have most of these pets now. Yay! Anyway, but like, what actually is a suitable comparison then? Like, if Neopets isn't really, like, the most comparisons I can give is the stuff that I looked for in my childhood, which would have been when I was playing this game was 2008, 2009. Possibly 2010, if we want to go that far. It's just, I think that Neopets progressed by pages. I don't even remember if you could dress them up. Like, I suppose you could possibly, but the thing I remember most that was possible that I couldn't do was the coloring, and that's because the McDonald's plush toys had different colors of them. Basically, that was like one of the site's functions, I guess. I'm gonna play solitaire today. Wow. And I've never played solitaire before in my life, so this will be fun, I guess. But, like, Neopets progress by pages. You never walked a pet around. I mean, they did say they wanted to do that in the AMA, but they couldn't do it because technology's limitations at the time and what was able to be coded. But while they wanted to do that, obviously the final site didn't end up being that, so you're not controlling a pet. Even if you're not controlling the pet, the only thing you can do is, like, feed it and maybe give it a few things, like, off of the basic knowledge that I had of when I played it as a kid. I just don't think that it's a suitable comparison point to make. In popularity, sure, it might have been, but, like, on the level that it is basically, like, Webkinz's competitor is a little bit of a, difficult thing. It's a little bit of a difficult logic for me to wrap my head around, given how different the two games basically are. I'm getting a lot of pickleberries today. Okay, I'll just do this then. Because, like, the site progressed by pages. It didn't... There was a map, sure, but, like, it was about as interactive as the map in the background in Magical Forest here. And that was for your pet and it walking around, not just one location in a larger game. So, it's just another thing that gets at me. Alright, I'm gonna get some moonberries today. I kind of doubt I'm gonna get 5, but let's see. Yep. Oh well, at least I'll get a, at least I'll get a nice moonberry, if not. Alright. But yeah, it's just kind of weird, because, like, in Webkinz, you can walk your pet around. In Webkinz, you can dress your pet up. In Webkinz, like, you can obviously still feed them things, but you can feed them a lot of things. There's still games in Webkinz, but, like, those games are a bit more interactive and or sometimes affect how you even play it. Like, there are daily games that you can play every day to earn things, which is a little... Well, that was pointless. Which is different from, like, the various games that were on the site. It's a little different of the games from the site, because those were just games that you did to earn money, is the difference. There are still plenty of games like that on here. In fact, like, that's pretty much the majority of... Oh my god. Pretty much the majority of... I'm just gonna go over... Oh, well, I'm gonna get stopped anyway. Again, completely pointless. I don't know why it just goes to a stop. He might not just warn me? Is it? No, okay. It's like... Perhaps it's like here. Okay, that one is yellow. Wow. I do not get that luck with that every day. Sometimes it just completely ends the round. But, like, there are never daily games. There are not a whole lot of daily activities, to my knowledge, that you can do in... Jesus. Not Webkinz. In Neopets. And like the last time I played it, sure, I might have been 9 years old and probably couldn't do a whole lot. I mean, that was like 2007, if not 2007, like 2006 maybe. It was just after the whole it was just after the whole McDonald's ones, but like only a few years after that. Oh, finally I get my spree thing today. That's neat. And they're much better now because they give out clothes instead of stupid parking lot spaces. And food, but it should be given. I'm gonna do this again. I'm probably gonna fail it this time. Okay, it's either blue or yeah, it's blue. Huh. I'm having a lot of success today. It's like I just find the comparison to Neopets awkward because, like, it's not that they're fictional creatures, it's what you do with them is very different between the programs. I guess you can say, like, the idea of an online pet is what inspired Webkinz to even exist, and in that case, you'd be right. But, like, to say that they were, like, competitors to each other is, like, what are they competing with? The fact you can raise a pet? Like, I'm pretty sure due to, like, the fact that came out later and the technical advancements that had been made from 2005 to 1999 would make one want to play Webkinz a bit more than Neopets because you can actually interact with a pet. You're going to see it in a moment. I'm going to walk around. I can walk this pet around an isometric room. You can't do that in Neopets. I mean, they wanted to, like, probably not isometric, but they wanted to have your pet walk around some sort of area, but they couldn't do that. They didn't implement it, so, and they haven't. The site is sort of still stagnant in its iconic page mentality, and therefore I can't really say it's a competitor because it's not competing with the same thing. They're only pet simulators because both raise a pet. Same reason why Club Penguin isn't really a competitor to me because it's based around the social experience there, and I have played that. I played it more recently in like 2012. I got myself a Puffle code, and sure, the Puffles in Club Penguin are competing with Webkinz, no doubt about that. They put a code in, you raise them exactly pretty much the same way you raise a Webkinz. It's sort of like, to give a comparison, how there's a Zumbuddy floating near me. That would be the Puffle, but you raise the Puffle like you would this Webkinz. You feed the Puffle, you nurture it, etc. Which is a bit more of an apt comparison. But, like, people then say just Club Penguin in general is the competitor, which I would, like, are you talking about the penguin part? Because the penguin part isn't nearly trying to. You're not raising the penguin, you are the penguin, and, when you are the penguin, or you were the penguin since the site's shut down, but since you are the penguin, like, the site is more, like, you're simply the penguin. I mean, sure, you were able to dress the penguin, but you don't feed the penguin. You don't, like, you gain money and you know, you're represented by a penguin, but the penguin is more you, the virtual representation of you in the world. And sure, yes, you can say that as well for this, since you are controlling this, and that is also the case as well. I'll just buy food. I hate these, honestly. Just buy myself some almonds. I meant to give you them, not the... whatever. But, like, it's more of a sense, like, you're told in Webkinz the moment you come in now still that you are raising this pet, because you're told to name yourself with a greeting name. You don't name the pet with your greeting name, you name yourself with your greeting name, and you're just an invisible, omniscient creator that can, like, creator of these pets that can control them to whatever will they desire. You're not a virtual thing in the world like the penguin was. The penguin is you. You obviously, there is still an omniscient being because you control where the penguin goes, but it's more of that the penguin is... It's more of that the penguin is, you know... The penguin is far more closer to being the raiser, since, you know, I guess it's implied that the penguin's raising the puffle, than, you know, you raising this penguin and this puffle, because you don't need to feed this penguin. This penguin can just run around and not need to be fed at all for anything. So, yeah, that's a thing. Did anyone know there were recipes for these apples? Like, especially given how crap they give normally. Like, at least that they can be turned into snacks is at least a godsend, and I'm not going to feed them the candy apple, because if I know one thing now, it's that candy plus apples is going to equal like 1, whereas pie gives me 20, which is solid, but I'm not going to use it constantly, so I'm just going to feed you the rest of the stuff I got now. Now I'm going to wait in the room. I'm going to put you in bed now, and I'm going to talk for the rest, I guess. Oh wait, I've got to put that bed somewhere, and I've got to do that challenge as well. But yeah, like, Club Penguin was, like, designed as, like, a social experience, and, like, because, like, there wasn't really much limitation of what you could say in the chat. I mean, there were things you got banned for, but you can get banned here too if you say the wrong things, or you attempt to say the wrong things. I mean, that's just a general thing anywhere, so I don't think that's exclusive to Club Penguin. It's more so that, like, I'll do the challenge after. It's more so, like, you were able to type anything, and like I said, the first thing you did when you went into Club Penguin was picked a chat room. Like, even this now, I've been playing for like 20 minutes or something, and like, I have not needed to like turn this on to directly go in. I mean, I had to go into the clubhouse to collect like this and the clothing and that, but I didn't need to turn on a chat room. I didn't need to turn this on. I mean, it went on automatically when I went in the clubhouse, but that's it. It turned right off and I can still play the game. I don't think you could do that in Club Penguin. I mean, yes, you could go to your house, but that's like the only place. Like even in webkinz, just the things to do, like, here's your house, but here's the arcade, which is also offline. Like, I think the only online places that you can face other people in are the clubhouse, the tournament arena, the stadium, I think, and the park. They're all in this little area together. Perhaps Vacation Island if you're deluxe as well, actually. And, like, I think Adventure Park is too, again, if you're deluxe. But, okay, that's 6 areas of this remarkably large board, a lot of which is actually offline. Some of it is locked off to, like, deluxe members, but the fact of the matter is, you don't need to encounter another person to use these things. In that case, yes, it would be more similar to Neopets, but it's actually more similar to the other ones that started to try and copy webkinz itself. So, like, when people say, like, webkinz and Club Penguin were really popular, okay, yes, I won't deny that, but they were popular probably for different reasons. Club Penguin was more of a chat room instead of a pet raiser. It just sort of saw webkinz's popularity and started copying it with the puffles, but, like, it didn't evolve into, like, webkinz because, or, like, something really close to webkinz besides the puffles, because, like, again, the main gameplay, the main focus that you were given was that social aspect, and I guess people liked it for that social aspect. I mean, that's what social media now is for. Similarly, there was also a, I mean, I guess you could draw comparisons more to this than you could draw comparisons to Club Penguin, because there was a social experience in Pop Tropica, but majority of the experience was offline solving quests, and I know that because I went and played it like multiple times. The one I remember everyone liked was the superhero one, because once you completed it, you could fly around any stage, no matter what. And, well, not every stage in every other quest, but just in that quest, you could fly around every locale to your desire. And I am admittedly one of those people who just flew everywhere, because that's just ridiculous fun. And, like, there is a social aspect to it, but you could play a lot of it offline. But, like, that's the only similarity they have, because in Poptropica, it's basically like an RPG that constantly had quests in it. You're not raising a pet. I guess maybe there is a quest where you raise a pet, potentially, as one of the problems, but that's it. And, like, I can't imagine going into it now with the amount of quests that you would need to solve. I guess if only you're a really proficient RPG player now. Like, action RPG person, you would play Poptropica. Like, but I can't imagine these things as being, like, comparisons to each other. Like, I can imagine them being alternate, like, games people played, but, like, they're not competitors. Like, I'd imagine more of a competitor would be the ones that actively tried to copy it, no shame, no gain. Such as My Pets, Shining Stars, Mushability, and a couple of these are going to be names that a lot of people haven't even heard of. But they did try to copy Webkinz. How do I know? I had all of these. Well, not every copy, but the ones I just mentioned, yes, I had them. And, I did play on their online games to know that they were basically the same, with a lot of the same, mechanics, which would mean they are trying to compete in some way. The most obvious one, Shining Stars, in that you control the pet. You could give it a name, you could feed it. Like, the only difference was that an actual star in the sky was named after the pet you gave, like, the name you gave the pet. So, like, a star in the sky would have been named Polly, since I named one of my pets Polly. And that's probably the only gimmick that set it apart, aside from the space theme that they all had. Because, like, everything else about them was the same. There was a plush, there was a code, you bought the plush with the code, you insert the code on the website, and then you just give it a name. There's only a different message that you get saying, oh, we also named a star in the sky after you. But that's more of a direct competitor, because a lot of the game mechanics are basically the same, and we're trying to evoke the same feelings as Webkinz, because you controlled this pet. I think it was also isometric as well, in a different way. But, like, and, like, even then, there is an element of mysticism to it, because the pet was in space, so it has nothing to do with Neopets, having designs that don't really speak to actual animals. It has more to do with, the way the site operates. It can only act as an inspiration for Webkinz and all of these other things, rather than directly competing with it, in my opinion. So, then there's My Pets, which, basically was. It's just that all of the raising elements were given a lot more focus, and then they just dropped the game, basically. I don't even remember if Shining Stars had games, but I definitely played this one more often than not. My Pets had games, which you played to earn money. It had a house, which you could decorate. It had clothes you could buy for your... At first it was dogs, but then they branched out to a whole bunch of other things, and because, they spent more money into it than they received back, whoops, the site shut down in 2011, and no one will ever know what that amusement park they were building was ever for. But anyway, I assume it might have been for some chat room implementation they were trying to make, but they clearly weren't making it. But yeah, you had a house, you had pets, you had clothing. You could take them to the salon to, like, cut their fur. You could take them... that would be pretty awkward with the dragon, but, whatever. You could take them for, like, doctor's checkup. like, you could basically wash and take them to the doctor, which were also elements in here. You could buy a bath. You can still buy a bath. And clean the pet here, as well as Dr. Quack used to exist for pets that got really sick, but they got rid of the sick function, so now it's no longer a thing. I don't even remember much else. There was the shop, obviously, and then I think that was it. But that's more of a direct competitor because it was trying to compete on the same playing field as it. It's just that the pets themselves in My Pets had a lot more detail and a lot more animations, which again they probably sunk a whole lot of money into and didn't get back because either no one heard about it or no one cared because everyone knew they were trying directly to copy Webkinz, even if they were trying to deny it, which we all knew they were. So I mean, it got evident at one point where, like, really late into the site's life cycle, you could basically play with any of the pets that they had released, like, with any of the animations they had. You didn't have to put in a code for them. You didn't even have to pay money. You could just load up an account that you had, use all of the pets that they had in their system for any of these other things, like checking up on the doctor, washing them in the salon with the haircut as well, and all that other stuff. And you could still play their Flash games. They didn't have dailies, but they certainly had all of the rest of it that was directly competing with what Webkinz was doing at the time. So yeah, and similarly, like, Mushabelly was also this as well, because you got a monster, something, which is again why I'm not really, like, I'm not discounting Neopets just for the fact that it has mythical, non-existent creatures. I mean, Webkinz has that too, but so did Mushabelly. Mushabelly's whole thing. I remember boxes and boxes of them in the stores, and they were just abstract spheres of something. The one I bought particularly was this green monster with a pink and blue striped belly with like 6 tiny arms sticking out of the side of it. It also had a tongue sticking out as well. Like, you can't find a creature like that in real life, or like close to real life. But the way the site operated was more trying to compete with Webkinz as well. It was trying to send these pets to a university or something, which, you know, there is an academy in this game. You could also dress your Mushabelly. You could also feed your Mushabelly. They also had a room in which you could decorate. Do these sound familiar yet? It's like, there was also, I think it was either by the people who made Shining Stars or someone completely different, called Sea Pals, and I remember this because I was trying to look for more things that were like Webkinz because I was getting bored of Webkinz on its own, and I wanted to try and raise like multiple sites that were kind of similar, but, you know, whatever. So I know I got a seahorse puppet. It was like a finger puppet where the plush toy was a seahorse, like fully a seahorse, but like just past the tail where its belly would be, underneath that would be a hole where you can stick your finger in, and basically it's a puppet. And it was Sea Pals, and it came with a code for their website. And I think it had a room. It also had chat room functionality and was like very I only vaguely remember it because I barely touched it, but like, you could feed it, you could go into a chat room with various other people, and I think I remember like you could see the chat room, at least the activity of it, from if you even weren't a member, and you could see that there were many people talking to each other on it, probably kids, but like, the fact is, like, you put this code in, they had a room, you could, I think you could dress them up, I don't remember. If you couldn't dress them up, you could still feed them, you could still do things like that. Just like, the only thing in Club Penguin that would make me think, oh yeah, this was directly competing with Webkinz, were the Puffles, and like, they were completely optional. Like, they weren't the main feature of the site. Webkinz back then, I mean, now it's free, so then you can just hop in and be a free member. But back then, you needed a code to enter the site. And a lot of them were like that because they were trying to copy Webkinz's fame. A lot of the ones I just mentioned. But like, you could log into Club Penguin without needing this Puffle stuff. And again, otherwise you were funneled into this chat room mentality where you were allowed to say a lot more things than Webkinz even now allows in its chat system. Which, like, is something to note because Webkinz's dictionary is unbelievably small. It will reject numbers, it will reject any sort of, like, anything that resembles common street names to prevent people from giving their addresses to strangers. Which is fine. I'm not going to advocate just giving your address to a stranger. But, like, the vocabulary was, and still is, very different. Because I still remember, like, when people would have to talk about 3 in an unrelated context, they would have to use the word tree in order to get around that. They would have to use, like, TW, like, not W the word, not W the letter, but like TUU, to say the word two in a context where, like, they could actually talk about the word two without saying, your address to someone else. Like, because Webkinz's dictionary only looks for the string in which is, like, is whitelisted in its list of blocked words, I guess. It doesn't look for the kind of context it's in, because by default it will assume if you're talking about the word 3, you're using it in a context that is bad, which I will agree is pretty terrible, because multiple words have multiple contexts. Not every single child is going to be using the word 3 to give their address to some random stranger on the internet. And I'm not going to advocate that those who attempted to are, the people that should be using that. But, like, it basically forces everyone else to try and use these workarounds. And, like, I wouldn't say that's the best idea to do, but this is 2005 and stuff, so I'm not agreeing it was the best. I'm just saying, like, Club Penguin was, I can't stress it enough. Like, the first time you logged in, every time you were told to choose one out of several chat rooms. I'm sure many random kids just picked a random one and just went on with their day, but, like, you were forced to pick one. Like, in Webkinz, you weren't forced to pick one. And the original chat without Kinz Chat Plus was just predetermined messages. It was far, far less social than what Club Penguin was trying to be, because Webkinz was and still is trying to be a pet simulator. I mean, Club Penguin did have pet simulator elements. It tried to incorporate Puffles, which were basically the same, but it was basically a mini Webkinz instead of Webkinz itself, basically. And you still had to buy it. You still had to buy the Puffle to get the thing. And, like, I know there were free Puffles that you could get. They were, like, the red and the blue one. But, like, if you wanted the deluxe, in quotes, Puffles, you had to buy one with a code and then raise it. Which was basically Webkinz, the way you raise a Webkinz now. And back then as well, before they allowed free players even. It's just, I don't think they were nearly on the same level, because Club Penguin, the moment you log in, touts itself as a social experience. You're in this chat room, and other people will likely be in this chat room too, so you could potentially find them and, talk about it. I'm pretty sure, like, you could visit other people's igloos, and in that sense, that would have also tied in with Webkinz, since you could visit other people's rooms. You can't right now due to the way they've coded the rooms. They said more recently, when they were adding the ability to move rooms, is that the way the map works, I'll just drag that up for a moment, the way the map works is that it's not coordinate based like you would think. So what, like, the logic that goes on here is like each room is determined by a really outdated and not updated algorithm. So that Fluffy Girl's room is determined more of an algorithm than instead of it's north of Martin, Toby, and Bernie's room. So basically, like, they were saying, like, because it's not coordinate based, it was much harder to add the ability to move rooms because the algorithm had the rooms, tied to each other in the code, basically. So it was really hard for them to add that ability, and even then you can't have, like, island rooms where you can't have the rooms attached. You still can't delete rooms, but I'm pretty sure they'll find a way to do that at some point if they found a way to move them. But basically, one hole in this is that party packs can allow you to hold basically a party in your house, but you can only hold it in the room in which you initiated the party in. So, the clubhouse, I'm not going to go to it right now, but, like, the clubhouse has a bunch of rooms in the old coding method. They're trying to, like, slowly increment the site in phases to the new version, because Flash is a little bit outdated and they need to, like, the old version they were using, and they need to update the coding. So, like, there were rooms in that, right? So you only enter in those rooms there one room. So the party packs basically would dump you, say I held a party right here in this room, it would remove the doors, and it would basically force everyone to be stuck in this one room. A la, like, if you entered a clubhouse room. So basically, like, they need to implement the coding so then that it can see the rooms around it now. And, like, since they are very busy moving everything to the desktop app so people could still play the game, let alone be able to invite their friends. Well, yeah. But, like, I mean, I guess that's the only similarity you had with Webkinz. You were a penguin, and you could that had a house, and you could visit other people's houses. I don't remember if you could have multiple igloo rooms, though. Like, I literally have a mansion because I've been playing this game for, like, 10 years. And, like, when they got the ability to move rooms, I started categorizing every single room thematically into what I would imagine the house to be. The house is actually a very, 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 very loose silhouette of the Australian map. It's very loose. Like, I probably need to add more in the top right and the bottom to actually make it look more like Australia, but it's loose enough that it works. I don't remember, though, if you could have multiple igloo rooms, though. Since, I really don't remember if you could have multiple igloo rooms, though, because, like, maybe if you were paying, if you were a subscription member, but I really don't remember. The room you even got was very basic, and I don't think you got very many items. And I mostly played free, so I'm probably misremembering a lot of stuff, but, like, Club Penguin was more of a chat room. It was more of a social experience. It wasn't trying to be a pet simulator until it added the puffle elements and even make a couple of them attached to codes. It wasn't trying to be Webkinz, in my opinion. So, like, when people say, like, it was directly competing, like, Club Penguin was for the free people and Webkinz was for the people who paid, I mean, yes, but they weren't nearly the same game. And, like, even if you were on Club Penguin, if you wanted those deluxe puffles the same way you want a Webkinz, you're basically doing the same thing. So what? Then Club Penguin's pet raisy elements are basically then exactly competing with Webkinz, and in that sense, yes, okay. But Club Penguin, the rest of Club Penguin, why and how is that competing with Webkinz? Like, I don't even think that Club Penguin had predetermined messages. In fact, like, you have to actively get a parent in, like, their very old, not updated version of the parents area to even give you the ability to use Kids Chat Plus, which is the one that lets you type anything. Otherwise, you're stuck with the predetermined messages and you won't be able to enter the Kids Chat Plus area at all. So, like, in fact, like, the social elements of webkinz aren't even just, like, basically non-existent. They're practically actively discouraged unless, you know, the whole mentality of, you know, do you know what you're doing sets in. Any kid could just set up an account, start chatting on Club Penguin away, and enter themselves into a world of frenzy. But in webkinz, you couldn't do that unless you knew your parents' email, if you were a kid, basically, which were the target audiences for these things. If you knew your parents' email, then okay, then you were basically on the same level as, you know, Club Penguin's chat room. But, like, not even then, given what I just mentioned, that it still limits your vocabulary, even when you can type anything you want in the bar. So I don't really think they were trying to be the same, because they just are very different. And, like, you know, Club Penguin is down, and, like, webkinz was aware that it was a thing, because the free pets that you can adopt now when you sign up for a free account, one of them is a penguin, because they were aware that Club Penguin shut down, and now a ton of those users don't really have anywhere to go in terms of, you know, pet raisey sites and or late 2000s, early 2000s websites of chat rooms / pet simulators. So one of those pets is a penguin, so then people can continue to play with a penguin, only instead you're in webkinz instead of, like, Club Penguin. And, like, the way you control the penguin in this game wouldn't be much different from the Club Penguin there. It's just that even as, you know, it doesn't show the grid now, it's still very much a grid. This room is 10 by 10, and you can just tell by the way, like, Toby's moving right now, in that they are very much constrained and forced to the grid. Club Penguin wasn't. Like, the area had, like, some amount of collision for, like, bushes and things, but it was very much like three-dimensional movement, basically. Still isometric, but still basically three-dimensional. It wasn't confined to a very easy to see grid. It was, I think it was probably position based or coordinate based. But they weren't really trying to be the same. It's like, I wonder why. I mean, yes, their popularity might have been on par with each other, but you could say that about a lot of things. Like, they weren't really trying to be the same thing. Neopets might have inspired both of them to exist, but it's not nearly a competitor. Because, like, I heard about webkinz in late 2007, and by that point, I'd completely stopped playing Neopets. Like, it was very early 2007 when I was playing it. It was literally Christmas, close to Christmas of 2007, in which I heard about webkinz at all, and that was actually when I went to a gift store in Sydney, and they had a whole pile of them in the corner, and I went over and looked at them, and I wasn't totally interested in them. I didn't have the money to get any one of them yet, but slowly as the months passed, I began to get more interested in it, and I still have the date of when I I opened this account in 2008, and I've still kept it alive since, because I have a mansion now and tons of items and stuff, and I don't really want to let that go. I don't want to let it go until it shuts down like Club Penguin does, basically, and it's not going to do that because they're hauling all of their assets into this mobile app, and the site is still running strong. So I don't think it really is going to be like Club Penguin anytime soon. I think they saw the kind of damage that removing a site such as Club Penguin from the internet can do. So if Webkinz were to do that, the shockwaves that would send throughout the internet community would be immense. You already have people who are like, oh yeah, I remember that game I played when I was little. You can make a free account now? Oh sweet, I might as well go back and relive my childhood. Those types of people. But, like, I think Webkinz knows that, like, it's one of those properties that can still have that. If Club Penguin came back, it could do that. But, I mean, I completely doubt it. But, hey, let's just think, right? But let's not fool ourselves here. They were very different games. They had popularity with each other, but they weren't different versions for different folks. They were very much different games. Even as I have a penguin, I actually adopted a penguin for more recently to this account, because heck it, I really like a lot of their designs, so... Even the penguin here is like a specific design. It's a penguin. You have tons and tons of other types of pets you can adopt into the site. Like you can have a penguin if you feel really, really attached to a penguin. I mean, that's a small one, but there's a big one too. But like there are tons of other pets, most of them dogs, but otherwise there's like raccoons, horses, lions, cats, literal fictional creatures such as Pegasi and unicorns. The last plush pet they put out was a narwhal. They have plenty of fish, plenty of birds. Like the list goes on, and they have like even a lot of exotic animals. They have a red panda, they have elephants, they have a ton of pets you could raise in this game. Basically exactly in the same manner to each other, so that they aren't daunting with their individual desires and needs as animals. But Webkinz touts itself and promotes itself as a pet simulator. You adopt a pet, you raise this pet, you give it a room, you give it clothes, you give it stuff, rinse and repeat, so then Gans gets money. But in Club Penguin, like, sure, you could do that with the Puffles, but you don't get, like, multiple penguins unless you're signing up for multiple accounts. And you don't get, like, a variety of things. You only get Puffles of different colours. And yes, there are a lot of Webkinz that are just recolors / reskins of a previous pet that they've made. There's, like, a ton of horse and dog skins that they've been using where they just plaster a pattern over it and call it a day, and yes, that has happened. But like in Club Penguin you didn't have that, and that wasn't like a deluxe thing. You could literally just find one of these pets in a gift store, adopt it onto the site, and that would be your first pet. Like, I don't think, like, Club Penguin wasn't for free people in that sense, because what? I think, like, you could just plain up, like, buy a subscription and buy them, and in that case you would be basically the same then. It wasn't for free people. At least in that sense. It was for free people if you wanted less, which is what I had at the time when I had my account on there. But like the way you even approached each game was different. Like back when I was playing it because a whole bunch of other people were talking about it and was like, oh, remember when that was a big thing? And I was like, I know it existed, but it wasn't really a big thing. Like, this was in 2012. So every like couple of weeks we'd be like, hey, you want to just meet up on Club Penguin? And we're like, well, we all just agreed to do it. But like
I doubt any one of them would have wanted to say, and I think at the time Webkinz was making a freemium version in that year. I don't think any one of them would have wanted to say, do you want to meet up on Webkinz? Because you want to meet up on Club Penguin, you know it's a chat room. You know the base, like, it basically funnels you into these chat rooms with all these people because, like, the first thing you do is you pick a chat room and then you just see people talking, and as a social creature, you want to go in and join the conversation. In Webkinz, the first thing you see when you start up your account is your room. Your room. No one's room. Yours. And you can have the social aspects, but again, you're not forced into them the way you're, like, and, like, you know, you could plenty ignore all of the instances as well, but, like, you, again, every time you log in, you were forced to choose a chat room. In Webkinz, like, for the billionth time, this Clubhouse is just a thing you can do. It isn't, like, you aren't forced into it. You aren't even encouraged. I mean, you could have some basic social interaction. You're only going to have predetermined messages unless you get your mum or your dad to allow, or yourself if you're really smart. Or you wouldn't have it unless your parents allowed you to go into Kinz Chat Plus, and even then you will still be limited by your vocabulary. So yeah, like, if anything, Webkinz actively tries to discourage you from having too much social interaction with people in comparison to Club Penguin. It knows that Club Penguin was popular because of the fact they included a penguin in their free pets now, but it isn't trying to be Club Penguin. It's just trying to appeal to potential Club Penguin fans who see Webkinz as an alternative and think, maybe I might want to go to that, since Club Penguin is gone now. But it's not actively trying to turn itself into Club Penguin. It's not funneling me into the clubhouse or the Kinsville Park at every opportunity. It's literally, the first thing you do is make your room, and if you can't make your room yourself, go out and do the various quests and things to earn items, so then you can decorate your room, perhaps even actually adopt a pet. Give us money to adopt a pet, so then you can create as many rooms of as many types as you want, and build your house that way, as I have clearly by literally making a mansion over the course of 10 years. Like, I don't even think, like, Club Penguin tried to encourage you to build your igloo. I mean, it did give you items and stuff, but, like, it wasn't the main focus. You could practically go throughout the entirety of Club Penguin without ever touching your igloo, whereas in Webkinz, you could probably go through the entirety of Webkinz without ever going into the chat room, and as a result, they're very different games. They were, and in Webkinz's case still is, a very different game to each other. So I doubt they're very much competitors to each other. They weren't trying to compete on the same levels. And if they were, I mean, they were making it obvious, like with the Puffles. They weren't trying to change up core aspects of their game to appeal to the other crowd. I mean, Club Penguin might have, but, like, that was a part of it. It wasn't a core feature. You didn't need a Puffle. You could log into Club Penguin and walk around as a penguin for literally the entirety of the time. In Webkinz, back then, before they made the free accounts, you had to buy a pet with a code that wasn't used, and then you could use the site. Like, you had to do that. You had to buy a pet at a gift store, anywhere, with an unused code in order to access the site. In Club Penguin, that was an option. You could completely run around naked as a regular penguin and still continue to use the site, but you were using it then as a chat room rather than Pet Simulator 25. I feel like I'm gonna repeat myself if I continue, so, I mean, I already have, like, a billion times, so... Webkinz is still up, and like, another reason why I don't want to go into Neopets now is because the baggage of Neopets is that, since it hasn't really updated itself, like, in the fact that it's kept its charm and all that, is that, like, you can only raise, like, a very specific one of the beginning pets that you can have. And, I mean, I guess you can say this is better than the other places, but also simultaneously not, is in that you can't purchase currency to purchase another pet type. You can only, like, gain points. That's to my knowledge. I have no idea if you actually can, but to my knowledge, you can only gain one of the free pets, and, you know, whoever's pet's birthday at that point. And I think, like, only the very rare items can only be obtained by trading between people, and, like, those items are really valuable, and therefore those accounts that have been around for 10 plus years will have had something. And so I guess maybe then probably, like, try and attempt to keep my Neopet account from 2007 alive. It's not, but I don't know, like, the fact that it's not really interactive in that sense, you're just reading a bunch of pages and the text on it, is, the fact you're doing that is kind of awkward. I feel like the spree thing is done. But the pets are very limited. The things you can do on there are very limited because it's still trying to keep itself alive from the times it was from. It hasn't tried to evolve itself. Webkinz changed from being code only to having free accounts. And having, you know, a deluxe subscription as well. But yeah, I mean, I guess I should bring up Moshi Monsters as well, which I guess is probably far more apt to comparison to Pop Tropica and Club Penguin than it is Webkinz. Because, like, it did have questy elements in it. I mean, last I remember, like, it was, before I left the site, it had a lot of, like, superhero quests that you could do if you had a subscription. And, I think you could have clothes on your Moshi. You could only choose between one of 6 characters. The colors you could choose on them were, again, deluxe skins. Unless, well, you did have free ones, but if you wanted custom ones, you had to go to, you had to buy a subscription. I don't think you could chat so much unless you had the subscription, but you could see other players walking about. And, like, you could also gather the mini pets, but you didn't need to raise them, they just walked around your house. And you could just get, like, these tiny, like, mini pets for your house. Kind of like the Zums here, but you didn't need to raise them. Similar like how the Zum can just sit here and I don't have to go into its actual raising thing because it's just a money sink. The mini pets just walked around your house. You didn't need to feed them, you didn't need to clothe them, you didn't need to do anything with them. You just needed to lure them to your house and then they walked around and you could click them and play an animation. That's all they could do. So in that sense, like, it's more of a competitor to, like, Pop Tropica and Club Penguin than it was Webkinz, because you raised, I mean, you could raise as a pet your character, your Katsuma, your Poppet, your whatever it was. You could raise it, sure, you needed to buy food for it so it could continue living and not be dirty and completely continue to live. I'm pretty sure my account is dead now. But I doubt it was really trying to compete on the same level as Webkinz, because it had these specific characters. Like, and there were only 6 of them. I don't think they introduced more, but if they have, like, I don't know. And I also don't think it was on the same level of popularity. I mean, it was popular, but I don't think it nearly was. I think it was like Club Penguin, Pop Tropica kind of. Just enough to hit above the water, but also obscure enough that only a couple of people would know what I'm even talking about. So, like, another reason why I continue to play Webkinz over, like, such Neopets or, well, you know, Club Penguin since it's done, is, like, everything is a lot more personal, and it's far easier to get into a social room. There are plenty of Discords and Reddits for Webkinz still running. There's also plenty of social media updates for rare items that you could get. There's also plenty of people who are willing to trade things. I mean, I don't think you can trade or send if you're a free account, but the fact of the matter is, like, there are plenty of also giveaways that people do for deluxe membership in general for like 1 month or something, so that you can do trades and stuff with people. It's far easier to get a hold of rarer items, and especially even if you don't encounter these things. Right now there's a trophy challenge for Triple Strike Solitaire where you can get a trophy and a coffee table if you just complete these tasks, which I think anyone can do even if they just enter the site as a free member. So you just play Triple Strike Solitaire and you earn 180 Kinz cash. You can skip it if you have like money and you don't want to play it, but you can still earn it by doing the tasks required. And even like I have a number of pets so I can get the 7 classes done in one day, but since this goes until the 14th, you can do 3 classes a day. So that would mean it would take you 3 days to complete this task if you didn't pay any money and you were on a free account with 1 pet. So, and then you could get a free coffee table, and then I think as a free room you're asked to pick one of 3 types of rooms, and a pirate room, a princess room, and a generic teenager looking room. I mean, it used to be completely plain when you started the game, but you have options now, and then once you get the items, you can just move them around. Like, all it requires is completing the tasks, and they run these, like, every couple of months. There's also a second challenge going on right now that if you collect marshmallows from people, and you can make a ton of alt accounts under the same email, if you get a bunch of marshmallows from people, you get free furniture over the course of several days, but you can still do it. It's far easier to get rarer items, even to this day. Like, this candy apple right here, I actually only got it from a trade from a friend a few days ago, because weeks prior to this, there was an event running called Berry Fest, where you could get free rare seeds if you fed berries to your pets enough, and the chances for them were actually higher than I thought. So I got a whole bunch of extra seeds, which I can now trade to people, and when I traded them to someone, I got a Farm Fresh candy seed, which I've been looking for, which was fairly easy to look for because, you know, I got the original berry thing in the first place. I could have just kept the seeds, but I didn't want to because they were extras. I actually still have them in the crops, the ones that I got, you know, that were okay. It's very easy, in fact, also to look up things related to Webkinz. I know the site Webkinz Insider currently is down, but like you can also look up a ton of other things related to Webkinz. You can see the images of every item. Did you know that every single item in this game is a pre-rendered object? Everything except for the clothes is a 3D object. They have to render these objects in a 3D program before they then screenshot it and put it in the game. Obviously, everything that's 2D like this is drawn in like Flash or something, but the rest of this is drawn in a 3D program, which was actually a fairly recent fact that they revealed. And you can tell because some of these posters on the wall here, they've sometimes zoomed in to reveal the full details of the textures of the drawings that they've put on it as the texture for it. So there is still a lot of effort put into it. Might I also mention, who's a pet that I registered recently? I'll just do this before I go. I just gather a whole bunch of random rare-ish items, and this, the little Dalmatian to the far right is the pet that I adopted fairly recently. When you adopt a pet, even the free ones give you this. They will give you a specific item for that pet, and the pet will also have a food that you can only feed to that pet. They won't accept any other pet's specific food. They can accept random unassigned food, but that if a pet's food is fed to them that belongs to someone else, that belongs to a completely different pet, I'm going to demonstrate. This belongs to one of my cats. If I feed them this, that's not one of my favorite foods. It still feeds them, but it's not very desirable to do so. Another one of their quotes will say, I think that's meant for someone else, basically. So, like, I'll just, not that one. This one. Yeah. It will basically, it'll still eat it, but it's not desirable, especially since they cost 25 a piece. So, you'll want to feed them either generic food or their own food. So you'll get a specific food even with the free pet, because the free pets were either ones you could buy from the online store, or you could just find as plushes in the case of the penguin. So you'll get a pet specific item, which for this Lynx here is actually his bed. It's this milk thing for this doggy, and I think it's the light here for him. I tend to keep the pet specific items in their room because it's just convenient for me, but you can actually place them anywhere in the house provided that you actually have a space in the room. You saw I put in the thing before, you actually move it more so like you're in a 3D program, just a ton more limited, because again you're limited by the grid, which you can see below you. They give you tutorials, they give you examples. It's far more user-friendly a game than it's far more user-friendly a game than a lot of the other things I've seen. And they do try to funnel you into all of this e-store stuff where you can purchase things, including more items, clothes, and even more pets. You are not forced into it, you're just heavily encouraged, which, you know, it still feeds into my point I was talking about. It still heavily encourages you to... Club Penguin heavily encourages you to chat. Webkinz encourages you to raise your pet, build your room, and buy. With all 3 letters. Because it will constantly spam you with these ads. And I think free members even have to deal with third-party ones as well. Including ones that interrupt gameplay. So, it can get annoying. I very much agree. But compared to a ton of other games, I think it's generally a bit more friendly about that than a lot of other games out there. It's like they never directly prevent you from taking part in the challenge unless the game in particular is a game that's only for full members or people who've actually bought a pet in the past and continue to raise it. So yeah, like, it doesn't block you from making recipes unless, you know, the food in particular is full member only or deluxe. And I don't think it really is like that much. There might be some food that's deluxe, but not the pet favorites. You get any of them, provided you have the pet at all. But like, even through this whole list, you can just purchase them for tiny, tiny amounts of Kinz cash, and I'm pretty sure most of these are essential to making a ton of recipes, which you can all find online. There's plenty of lists and stuff that you can find to educate you on how to make recipes or how to do specific things. You get a fair amount of Kinz cash. I think you get like 3,000 when you start, and you can use that, and you get the room for free, so you don't have to purchase anything to get the room. And the room comes with a bed, so you can put your pet to sleep and not worry about it nagging you for stuff, which it does now. So that's more than enough to just buy a stove, blender, sandwich maker, and then look up some recipes, and then like start playing the game strategically, I guess, and then earn KC by doing the dailies and stuff. In that sense, basically Webkinz is a questy game, but I personally think it's far more forgiving than a lot of other sites I've played. I play a lot of Mossy Monsters, and it was clear from the outset that they very much didn't like free members using the site, and it was very hard to even earn the money to purchase food. Whereas here, like, a lot of the games are very easy in small increments, and you can very easily get like 10 Kinz cash and buy 2 blueberries. And you don't even have to use them for recipes. Just buy a blueberry and feed it to the pet if it's hungry. Like so. Sorry, I'm gonna go grab it. It's not gonna get you much, but it gets you more than the non-pet specific food stuff. So I'd say if you're looking for, you know, pet games that are like that, I honestly recommend Webkinz. And I guess I do have a bit of bias since I've been playing for a decade, but like, I honestly think after having played Club Penguin, after having played Mossy Monsters, after having played Pop Tropica, after having played all of these Webkinz ripoffs that I mentioned in this long chitty chatty thingy mobby, I honestly think Webkinz has come on top because of that. It does try to encourage you into these things like the other things, absolutely. It's a lot easier to ignore it, though, than in other places, because it still gives you a lot back. In Mossy Monsters, there was no way to earn other skins unless you paid. There was no way to earn items, there was no way to earn anything. You were literally funneled into this free mentality just so you could, you know, show off other people online what 2 pets you got of the ones that walked around your house. In Club Penguin as well, tons of games were locked behind the subscription. Tons of events were locked behind the subscription. Skins, clothes, like, I think even the puffles were. So, like, all you could do was chat with people. And again, that was the thing that it encouraged you to do. So, if you liked that, that was great. And, like, Neopets, I think, like, you can only get a tiny amount of money for tiny amounts of food, so then you can just barely keep running. I in these other sites as well, the sites that competed with Webkinz, My ePets, Mushabelly and such, it varied the kind of difficulty that you would in which you would be able to receive money. My ePets was actually very hard to earn a significant amount of money because the arcade games gave you so little. Mushabelly gave you a hefty amount, but didn't give you a whole lot. I don't remember playing Shining Stars a lot, so I don't know how much it gave you, but it was probably a tiny amount. In Webkinz, you can keep playing the games that you have, and they usually give out a good amount, and especially if you get better at them. I don't think even if you got better at the other games, they would still give you a lot. Even if you got better, you were still getting paltry amounts of money, so you could barely even feed them. I honestly don't think that's the case with Webkinz, even on a free account. There is a glitch which, currently, like, he's at 27, and I've only been sitting here talking for, like, however long, and he hasn't really been doing anything. And so I generally tend to get a whole bunch of food items every day strategically, so then I can never have to worry about him running low on Steam because, well, I've got all this extra food. So I never have to worry, basically. And I'm still looking to get more, so then, strategically, I never have to worry about feeding them for a while again. And, like, again, there are plenty of recipes online. There are plenty of resources you can use to learn about Webkinz and what it's about. It's not dead. People just forgot about it. And I think for a little bit, the site has suffered as a result. Like, if you have to pick any site that of this particular type that you want to get into, I honestly think Webkinz is the way to go. Like, Poptropica is still around to my knowledge as well, but again, it was trying to be more of an MMORPG type of thing, where you actually have quests, you need to complete those quests, and then when you complete those quests and get those items, then you can actually trade with people, and talk with people, and be in battles and stuff, whatever that was. I never went in the trading rooms for that. I just completed the quests, and then once I was done, I just left the account to die. It's I would say Club Penguin if it was still around, but there's not a whole lot of sites I can say otherwise. Multi Monsters and like clearly locked a whole ton of stuff out. And like, granted, that was 2010 to 2011, 12. So I don't know if things have changed. I really doubt it, but we'll see. But honestly, I think, like, even though I have been on the site for 10 years, that Webkinz is better about this than a lot of other sites are. It gives you specific items that only you can have on the moment you enter the site, even as a free account. And it gives you the options to get your own items constantly through methods of earning, even if you're free. It gives you the option to speed them up, obviously, if you can pay for it. But everything in this triple solitaire thing you can do for if you had no money at all. You just need a bit of time. In fact, even if I were to complete all the classes and do the solitaire thing, I would still have to wait 3 other days because you can only spin the Wheel of WoW once per day. Unless I paid, obviously, to skip it. And it's vital to even spin it anyway, because you can potentially get items and money from it. You could get 20 Kinz cash, you could earn a piece of clothing, you could earn a piece of furniture. Now they've done a thing where if you play play a game for a while, you can earn a free pet. It doesn't extend your membership, but you can still earn the pet, and you could get medallions on the wheel. I honestly think Webkinz as a site is a lot. It still has its corporate cynical moments, but it is a lot friendlier than a lot of other games I've played that were around at the same time as it. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go and do the solitaire challenge. I'm just tired and I want to hurry up and do this. So, yeah. Come and play this game, guys. And also, I'm not Pinkalol. This game was made on this site. This game was made before I made the account before I made the name. So I'm using a completely different username on the site as a result. So yeah.